Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Hunter and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be starting an ongoing series which is focused on Cisco's vPtela SD-WAN solution. For those of you guys who have a smart account and have the ability to run your own SD-WAN labs, I've included the lab files in the description so you can use them to follow along. And for those of you guys who do not have an SD-WAN account or SD-WAN lab capabilities, just simply following along with these videos is going to give you a strong enough feel for the processes that are at play when we're actually deploying an SD-WAN solution, which is going to give you that competitive advantage over those guys who are out there saying, oh, I don't have an SD-WAN lab, I'm not going to learn it, making up excuses for not learning this emerging technology that's going to be a huge part of our roles as network engineers in the very near future. It already is at a lot of companies. So definitely stick around, follow along, and learn something today, okay? Now, today's video in particular is going to consist of standing up our enterprise certificate authority. We're using a Linux-based CA for this deployment, as well as our 3 SD-WAN controllers, the vManage, the vSmart, and the vBond. All right. And with each video, we're going to progress a little bit further and further along until we have a fully fledged SD-WAN deployment. Now, I'm first going to give a rundown of the 3 controllers within an SD-WAN solution, as I'm expecting that some of you guys who are watching are completely new to SD-WAN, or you may just want to get refreshed on what the purpose is of these specific devices. So all the configuration for the WAN edges is actually done on the vManage itself. Okay, so that's what the vManage is responsible for. It actually pushes configuration templates to the WAN edge devices. This can include interface information, routing protocols, you name it. This is going to allow us to streamline those common characteristics that all the edges are going to have, taking a massive workload off of the engineers in the past who were expected to hand jam or manually try to create their own templates, which commonly results in human error, causing functionality issues. It essentially eliminates all of that from this equation. All right. You're also able to implement APIs within vManage in order to push automation and programmability to those edge devices, which is pretty sweet. So something to keep in mind, though, is that vManage only manages the edge devices. It's not going to manage your devices behind the edge. So you can see those routers at the individual branch sites. It's not going to manage those iOS routers down there. It's only going to manage the vEdge devices. So it's not a one-for-all solution as far as network management. So make sure you definitely keep that in mind. It just takes a little configuration on a vEdge device, such as a static route, a default route, in order to reach the vBond, vSmart, vManage, in order for it to actually receive its full configuration and then begin participating as a branch site. Now, talking about the vSmart. So the vSmart controller is actually responsible for all the control plane management. So this controller runs its own protocol called OMP, or Overlay Management Protocol, that's used to pass routing information between the WAN edges. So you can kind of think of this as a route reflector in BGP. The WAN edges don't receive any control plane information from each other. They just each individually speak to the vSmart, who then provides that information to them. Okay? So unlike a BGP route reflector, the vSmart is not able to participate in data plane traffic. So it's not going to pass anything through that device. It is simply a reflector of the Overlay Management Protocol, which provides reachability information to the WAN edges so they can speak to each other. Okay? And last but not least, we have the vBond. Now for the vBond, this controller's primary purpose is for authentication. Typically it's just used once and then it kind of loses its purpose after it's used, but essentially permits who is and isn't allowed to be a part of that managed SD-WAN network. So prior to the device even being able to communicate with the vManage device at all, it has to be authenticated by the vBond and saying, hey, you're good to speak, you're good to receive configurations, and so on and so forth. So this authentication is actually a mutual authentication, and it utilizes PKI X509 certificates, which is why we need to deploy that enterprise CA inside of our lab here. And they're going to check each other's credentials essentially and ensure they are part of the same root. And then once that authentication succeeds, the vBond then provides the information necessary for the edge to then communicate with the vManage and vSmart and be able to start processing as a normal WAN edge device. Okay? All right, so that's just a short little overview of the purpose of each one of these devices so you aren't lost in the sauce when we're setting them up. Obviously, if you want a little bit deeper of explanation, you can go check out Cisco documentation. But as we progress through this lab, you're going to see them, the roles of each one of these devices play out more specifically. I just want to kind of set that foundation first before we move forward. All right. And I know you're probably like, oh, dude, shut up. Let's get to the lab. But I first need to talk a little bit about the topology so you have an understanding of what we're working with here. If you want to just see a blind demonstration of me setting up this SD-WAN lab, then go ahead and skip forward. I'll probably have timestamps in the description or the comments, all right? So looking at the topology, we have Site 1, which is the headquarters. This is where the on-prem controllers are being hosted. We also have a vEdge device here, which leads to the other resources within this site. We have 2 forms of transport running to each one of our branch sites. These are going to be simulations of these transports, so we're not actually running MPLS on the router itself, but just to create the scenario that we had one dedicated MPLS transport circuit as well as one public ISP infrastructure that we're getting from the headquarters site to the individual branch sites. And then also creating these two different links is going to give us the ability to try out some of the really cool features that come along with SD-WAN, like application-aware routing. So that's kind of the reason behind running these two different links, okay? So we're running OSPF as the underlay routing protocol for the MPLS circuit, and then we're running static routing along with BGP for the ISP links themselves. All right. Now this connection right here between the Site 1 WAN router and the Site 1 vEdge will be an OSPF link as well. If any of you guys are wondering, EIGRP is not supported by the vEdge devices. So otherwise, I'd throw at least one EIGRP instance in there to demonstrate, but it's not supported, so we're running OSPF. Okay. I also have a little bit of an informational panel here on the left side, which gives specific information with color coordination. For those of you who are planning on setting this lab up yourself and following along, you can just reference this. Obviously, you have to make adjustments to organization names, the specific IP addresses of some of this stuff to fit your own SD-WAN controller profile. So now that we've covered the topology, we've covered the controllers, we are now going to move on to setting up our enterprise certificate authority or CA server. So I'm actually using the Eve GUI server Docker for this. And the reason I mention that is because I'm running a startup configuration that manually statically sets a IP address to the interface so it doesn't pull it from DHCP, and essentially adds a default route to the gateway of the public network here that's facing the transport for these vManage, vSmart, and vBond devices. So I'm just going to telnet into that device, the enterprise CA, and I already have a telnet session established. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to CD into the root folder to just make sure that you're in /root. And then there's a couple commands we're going to run here with OpenSSL. The first one is going to generate the root key, which is an RSA key that's going to be used to actually create and generate the root certificate. It's also going to be used to sign those additional certificate requests that we get from the different devices. So that command actually generates the key. So if we do an ls, we can see that we have root.key created. And now we can actually run the OpenSSL command that's going to actually generate the root certificate itself. Again, all this information will be in the description. So we paste that in there, hit enter, and it should generate our root certificate. So we can go to ls again, and we should see a root.pem. And if we were to cat to that, we'd be able to see the root.pem certificate. So we're actually going to leave this window up while we set up our vManage device, so we can actually come back here, copy this, and then paste it in the vManage, because that's part of the process. So for initial configuration of a vManage, so the initial username, the default username and password is admin and admin. And it's actually going to prompt you to set a new password, if I can type it in properly. You must set an initial admin password. So I'm just going to make this Cisco123. And it's going to have you select the hard drive. So whenever you're actually importing these devices, these images into EVE-NG, it's going to prompt you to set up a hard drive and allocate a certain amount of space to it. So I just set up 35 gigs. I haven't had any issues with that yet. I've seen some people do 50 or 100. I don't think it matters too much for a lab scenario, so I just set it to 35. So I'm going to select the 35 gigabyte hard drive and then yes to format it. So it's going to format that disk, and this is going to take a little bit of time, so I will resume the video whenever this is done. All right, guys, our vManage is back up and booted. So a quick note here, you need to wait for it to say system ready before you attempt to log in. It's going to immediately prompt you. So as you can see here, vManage login popped up before the system ready did. If you try to log in too many times, it's going to lock the account out, even though you're not even able to log in yet. So just wait for it to say system ready, and then you're going to log in with those same credentials that you had set in the previous step. Okay, now for the configuration piece, the syntax is similar to a normal Cisco iOS, but at the same time, it has some differences, right? So make sure you take note of this. So we're going to go into config T as normal, and then we're going to go to system. And this is kind of the initial configuration for all the devices that we're going to need to set up in order for them to actually join the SD-WAN domain and be able to actually function. Okay, so we're going to do host name first, and we're just going to name this vManage, and then we're going to set a system IP address. This is kind of similar to a router ID, so we're going to make it 1.1.1.1. But something to know about this, guys, is that the system IP cannot be the same IP as an interface within one of the VPNs. So keep that in mind. So make it something unique. I have some stuff in the topology and the information over here that I set them up so they're not going to interfere with any of the IP addresses we're assigning to the devices, okay? And then we're going to set a site ID. This is obviously BR site 1 or HQ site 1, and then we have the different sites down here for when we move to the vEdges. So all of these devices here are going to be in site 1. All right, and then we're going to set the clock. So we're going to do clock time zone. We'll do America, New York. That's the East Coast. That's where I'm located. We're also going to do a vBond address. So this is going to be the public address, VPN 0 address of our vBond. So in this scenario, it's 201.113. All right, and now we're going to do commit. That's how you save, is commit. It's kind of similar to Juniper. It's a little strange, but whatever. So I just went ahead and committed it now. And if I do a show run here, I'm going to look and see my VPN. I'm looking for my VPNs here. So VPN 0 is currently assigned interface Ethernet 0, which I have that going to my VPN 512. And VPN 512 is the out-of-band management network. So it's similar to if you had like a VRF, a managed VRF on a device, that's what that is. So think of VPNs as VRFs. That's literally what they are. You can't ping from VPN to VPN. You have to specify if you're pinging from a different VPN. It's very, very similar to VRFs, okay? So we're going to remove this interface out of VPN 0 and then put the correct interface, Ethernet 1, that we want to use into VPN 0. So to do that, we're going to go into VPN 0, no interface ETH 0, and we're going to type interface ETH 1. Now this is case sensitive. The interfaces are case sensitive and they have to be specified exactly as they're displayed, okay? So don't typo, trust. I've learned the hard way, all right? So we're gonna give it an IP address. So the same thing that's listed up there for my VPN 0, which is purple, as you can see here. And we'll do /24, and then we're gonna do tunnel interface, and then we're gonna go allow service all, allow service netconf, and allow service SSHD. Now, no, netconf and SSHD are not part of the allow service all for some reason, okay? I was confused at first too. I was like, okay, I'm saying everything allowed, but then I have to specify additional services that I want to allow. I don't know why. For some reason, you do all and then you do netconf and SSHD. It's just part of the process here, okay? And now we're going to do a no shut. We're going to back out of here, and we're actually going to go back to where we're in VPN 0 configuration, and we're going to set a default route to the gateway of this 201 network, which is .254. And that is hosted on this Site 1 WAN router. So I'm not actually going to be configuring these devices during this video. I'll have they're already pre-configured. I'll have the configurations for them in the files, but it's just a waste of time. They're just very basic configurations, okay? So now we've done this, we can do a commit, and it should say commit complete, and we can do a show run again. And now we're going to set up our VPN 512. So we're going to go into VPN 512, interface Ethernet 0. We're going to do IP address 10.10.10.51, no shuts, and then we'll set up a default route to the gateway for this network, which is 10.10.10.1, which is my home LAN connection. And this is going to give me the ability to actually remote it or access the web user interface of the vManage from my home computer without having to go into a virtual machine. So this VPN 512 is simply just a management cloud 0 cloud. All right. So once that's done, we can commit again. And I can test reachability real quick. So I can ping VPN 512 10.10.10.4, which is my computer. I have reachability. So therefore, I should be good to actually go ahead and launch the vManage web user interface. And it pops up. You're going to log in with the same credentials that you logged in with the CLI with. So admin Cisco 123. And here's our main dashboard of the vManage. So a lot of information might be a little bit overwhelming for some of you guys, but don't worry. For this part, we don't have to focus on any of this right now. We're just going to go over here to administration, so the two little guys, and do settings. We're going to change our organization name. Now, this organization name has to match, and I actually didn't set that in the vManage. So we're going to go into vManage, and we're going to go back in here and go to config T system. I don't know how I could forget that. Organization, do HJ SD-WAN. So that's the organization name that is set on your controller profile of the vBond you create on your smart account. Okay, so that has to be there. So go ahead and commit, but it's going to ask you for it again here. So I'm just going to do my organization name. And then I'm going to change the vBond. And this is going to be the vBond IP address. So 201.113 is mine in my topology. And then we're going to come down to controller certificate authorization. Now, a lot of people use Cisco as a certificate authority because it's a lot easier. But since we're running it in a lab environment and we want to run an on-prem CA, we're going to have to choose enterprise root certificate. And you guessed it, this is where that root certificate is going to come into play that we just created on our Linux CA server. So we're going to copy and paste that in. Click import and save. And it says certificates authorization edited successfully. Okay. So now we get to go to the fun part. This is where we're going to actually generate a CSR for the vManage and then sign that CSR on our root certificate authority server. So go to certificates over here under configuration, go to controllers, and we'll see we only have the vManage in here currently. We're going to click on these three little dots here, and we're going to click generate CSR. That's going to generate a certificate signing request using that root certificate that we installed onto the device. This is going to allow us to actually create this request and then sign it on the CA. So we're going to copy the contents of this. We're going to go into our enterprise CA here. We're going to type V. So we're going to use vText editor because that's what comes on this by default. And we're going to do vManage.csr. It's going to put us in the V. I usually hit I to insert here and then just right click to paste in the CSR. And then hit escape. We'll do :WQ exclamation point to write and quit. And then we should have the vManage.csr, and we do. So now we're going to run another little command with OpenSSL, which is essentially going to say, hey, take that vManage.csr certificate or signing request and sign it, and then output an actual certificate. So this is the command. Again, files will be in the description. So it's signed, and we have vManage.pem. So now let's just cat vManage.pem, and this is the contents of our certificate. So we'll copy these. We'll come over here. We'll make sure that we clicked on vManage and click Install Certificate in the top right. And this is where we're going to paste in the contents of that certificate. When we click Install, it's going to take us to a task view. It's going to show us what's happening here. You can keep hitting refresh and seeing the different messages that's popping up. We're wanting it to say success. That means it successfully authorized the certificate. Everything is good. It does. We're great. Okay. So now let's go ahead and set up our vSmart and vBond. So it's going to be a very similar process, except you don't actually have to provision a hard drive for the vSmart and vBond. The default login is the same, admin and admin. Let's see if I type it in right this time. Probably not. Nope. And I'm going to set my initial password to the same, Cisco123. And then we're going to configure this pretty much the same exact way we just configured the vManage, okay? So we're going to do system. We're going to do hostname, vSmart. System IP is 2222. Organization name, can't forget that this time. We'll do site ID is 1. We'll do clock, time zone, America, New York for East Coast. And then vBond is going to be 201113. Commit. And then we'll check our configuration again here. It probably set it as VPN Ethernet 0. It did. So we'll go into VPN 0, no interface Ethernet 0. Interface Ethernet 1, and we'll give it an IP address. So 201.112/24. Tunnel interface, allow service all, allow service netconf, allow service SSHD. And then we'll no shut that interface, and then we'll add that default route that we added to the vManage to our gateway. We'll commit. Now let's modify VPN 512. So we'll do interface Ethernet 0, 52. No shuts, and then default route again. All right, now it's ping 201.111. We have reachability to the vManage, which is what we need. So we are good to go. So now let's do the same thing on vBond. There's a couple little differences in vBond. So the vBond actually runs a vEdge image. The vEdge and the vBonds run the same image. The only thing that separates the two is I'm going to show you guys here in a second. Something we have to specify. So once we configure it, we're going to set its host name, all that good stuff. So vBond, we'll do system IP is going to be 3.3.3.3. Site ID is 1. Organization. Clock time zone, America, New York. And then we're going to set vBond local. So this is essentially telling it, hey, you're the vBond, all right? And that's going to be his local address. So we can go into VPN 0. And as we can see here, if we do a show run, there's a different interface. So it has gig Ethernet interfaces rather than just those Ethernet interfaces. So we can see here that interface GE00 is already assigned to VPN 0, and Ethernet 0 is already assigned to VPN 12, or 512, which is good. So we can just go into interface GE00, give it an IP address. We can do tunnel interface, encapsulation IPsec. We'll do allow service all, allow service netconf, allow service SSHD. And then we'll no shut. And then we're going to add our default routes. Same as the other guys before, 254. And then we'll go to VPN 512. We're going to do interface Ethernet 0. Give it its management address. No shuts. And we'll do that default route to the management network. Now let's test reachability to the vBond or vManage, and we have reachability. Sweet. Okay. Now we have reachability to all these devices. We can actually go about generating CSRs on their behalf from the vManage and then signing them on the CA and then importing them to the devices. So we'll go back to our vManage here. And we're going to go up here to configuration. We'll do devices. We're going to come up here to the controllers at the top. Click add controller. We'll just do vSmart. This is where we're going to put the IP address. Now, it says management IP address. Don't let that confuse you. It's actually going to be the VPN 0 transport IP address, not the out-of-band management VPN 512 address, okay? So 112, username, this is the credentials to log into the device. Because remember, it's going to manage it remotely. It's going to generate the CSR. It's going to do all that stuff on its own. The vManage is doing all the work here. So we're going to click add. We do the same thing for vBond. Admin Cisco 123. All right, cool. So as you can see here, it has certificate status installed for the vManage and then not installed for this vSmart and vBond. That's fine. We're going to go back over to configuration, go to certificates, controllers at the top. We're going to click on vSmart, these three little dots here, and click View CSR. So we already generated the CSR for these, so we don't have to regenerate it. You could if you wanted to, but it's already present. So we're going to copy this, go back into our enterprise CA here. And I think I just recopied that, so I'm going to safety copy that again. And we're going to V again, and we're going to do vSmart.csr. Insert, paste in the CSR, escape, colon, right quit. And then we are going to copy paste our OpenSSL command for the vSmart into this Linux host. ls, we should be able to see the vSmart.pem is there. Sweet. So we can actually cat vSmart.pem, take the contents of the certificate here, and we can go ahead and install that on the vManage. So we'll make sure that we have vSmart selected and click install certificate. We'll paste in the contents, click install. It's going to run through its tasks here. We'll just make sure this actually takes properly before we move on to the vBond to wrap up this video. So it was successful, so we can go back over here to our controller certificates. And now we're going to work on the vBond. So we're going to view that CSR, copy that. I made the mistake again. And the same thing, vBond.csr, insert, save, boom, we're done there, okay? So now we can actually sign that last certificate with the same command, just different names, vBond here instead of vSmart. And then we're going to cat vBond.pem, take the contents of the certificates, make sure we're selected with vBond, install, paste that in there, wait for it to succeed, and we are successful. So if we come to devices here, controllers, here shortly we should see vBond and vSmart come online, I think. So let's check out our vSmart real quick. Make sure we have all the configurations done. So let's do a show run. Did I set the site ID to 1? I did. I set the organization name. I set the vBond. I have reachability. All right, there we go. Just took a little bit longer to sync up. So they're all synced up. They're in sync. They have certificate installed. That is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys were able to get something out of this. Again, it's a very easy process to get this initially set up. The more fun stuff comes in the future videos when we actually onboard the vEdges, start implementing templates and things of that sort. But if you guys got some value out of this video, please drop a like and subscribe. Share the video with your friends who want to learn SD-WAN. And stay tuned for the next episode. I'll see you guys then.